it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the mid-season premiere of Twisted Season 1, Episode 12, Dead Man Tell Big Tales. Now, let me just say something about Twisted for a second here. As you guys may remember, I did review Twisted in the summer for like the first 3 episodes. What ended up happening was I meant to watch the 4th episode. For some reason, though, I never finished the 4th episode, and I just decided to stop watching it. And I don't know why. I really don't know why I wanted to stop watching it, because it really was great. It was a really great show from what I was watching, and I heard that it got even better after, I stopped watching it. That's what I heard. I heard it got even better. So I did check out the finale because I heard it was coming back. I heard it got really, really good. So I checked out the finale, and the finale was amazing. I really loved it. But this particular episode, was probably my favorite. It really had everything I wanted in the show. It answered a lot of questions, and I absolutely love this episode. And I will definitely continue to watch this show now. I'm really sorry I stopped watching the show. I'm really not sure why I stopped watching the show. I think it was probably because, like, America's Got Talent was on or something, which I didn't really watch much of that either last year. I mean, I started, then I just stopped watching it, so... let's just get to this review, though, because I really enjoyed this episode, and I really want to talk about it. So, as we know, Joe did end up sleeping with that guy who turned out to be completely wrong for her, completely not what she wanted. You know, the Tyler guy, completely not what she wanted at all. She's still recovering from that, and, she's falling over, she's really upset about that, but she's blaming Danny and Lacey for her stupid mistakes. And it's all right for her to be angry within the beginning because they were secretly seeing each other behind her back, but she never had a claim on Danny. All 3 of them were supposed to be friends. And even though 2 of them renegade on the deal, they hadn't expected Joe would abandon them. And it's as if she doesn't care. It's as if she doesn't care that Danny is on the run. Joe returned home around the same time Lacey showed up at her house. She wanted to tell Joe about a new piece of information she found on Regina, but Joe doesn't want to hear it. She tells Lacey that she's done with helping Danny. He ran, and if he did that, then he must be guilty. So Joe is completely upset right now, and we really are not sure why. We know why, but she's just not admitting the truth. So, then a few moments later, Joe's up in her room by herself when Danny sneaks in through her window, and he told her how he overheard his mother and her daughter talking. He knows his father's alive, and he wants Joe's help finding him. He never expected he wouldn't want anything to do with him. She had immediately called for her mom, forcing Danny to escape before Tess could arrive. By the way, that was a big cliffhanger, was that Vikram was actually alive. That was a big cliffhanger of the mid-season finale. So Lacey on the other hand, now Lacey is the complete opposite of Joe. She's searching frantically for Danny, but she runs into this new guy. His name is Charlie. Now the interesting thing about this Charlie guy is, at first glance, she thought he was Danny, and right away he's like, I could be. And it might seem like he might actually have a little crush on Lacey. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here, because it might seem that, it seems that he actually does kind of like Lacey and wants to possibly start a relationship with her, which I think that's interesting. I mean, Danny and Lacey, as we know, it did not work for the 2 of them. She completely regrets having sex with him. She completely regrets that. And now this Charlie guy, I don't know if Lacey's exactly interested in that or if she's entirely focused on that right now. But further down the line, I think maybe they might start something between the 2 of them. I don't really know, but it seemed like that's where this might be headed. We'll have to see, though. Because he does visit her, a couple more times. Is it just a crush? We don't really know. Maybe she actually dated him in the past. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe it's someone she dated in the past. We'll just have to see what happens between the 2 of them. But I thought that was interesting that right away he just pretended to be, he said, I could be. So Lacey does eventually find Danny, and Rico is actually the one to help her, which is very surprising because, as we know, he despises Danny. He despises him. He despises him like anything. Turns out, though, that he was actually the one that took Danny in and was hiding him in the apartment above his garage. it seems he's no longer at Danny and actually believes in when he said he was being framed for Regina's death, which I kind of like, because I really liked Rico's character. I never really liked the fact that he hated Danny. I understand why, because, I mean, he always thought that Danny liked Joe. I think that's probably what it was, and we know that Rico is in love with Joe, so I think that's also part of it. So, meanwhile, everyone is searching for Danny's father. Vikram doesn't disappear on his own. He got help from not only Tess, the police chief's wife, but also from the private investigator that found the murder weapon with Danny's fingerprints, which, by the way, the murder weapon is fake. The detective Marilyn also happens to drive the same car Lacey had described to Kyle. Lacey told him that Regina was fighting with the person inside of the car and had gotten scratched. Kyle suggests Vikram of setting up Danny, and he has his most trusted officer with him behind the scenes. Over the course of their investigation, though, more signs begin to point to Vikram. Vikram had an off-share account that paid an enormous amount of money each month to Regina, and from the same account, someone paid a lump sum to Marilyn, sort of like a special fee for services rendered. Pretty convenient, seeing as she used to work for Vikram. That's also why Danny believes Marilyn is the best way to reach his father. So Joe is caught on to Rico hiding Danny. She had run into a jumpy Lacey a while back, and Rico, who's usually OCD about his routine, suddenly decides to change it. She went over to the apartment expecting to tell Danny to turn himself in, when he then dropped a bomb on her, and this was so surprising here. I mean, it surprised me because I kind of suspected it all along, but still, it was very surprising to find this out this early in the show. We find out that, she didn't understand why he was so desperate to see his father, and so he explained to her that this is not the first time, that he thinks his father is setting him up, which this would not be the first time, because Danny actually did not kill his aunt. His father did. It was Vikram who killed his aunt, and I thought that was a great reveal. I really loved that reveal right there. I thought that was really great. Then Vikram told his young son that he couldn't go to jail, and if Danny took the blame, then he wouldn't get in. So then here he's telling both Lacey and Joe the whole story. The story is that Vikram told Danny that he couldn't go to jail, and if Danny took the blame, then he wouldn't get into as much trouble. He told Danny that he would be taken away for a couple of days tops. Yet, as Danny began to serve a 5-year-long sentence, his father slowly stopped visiting, until one day he was assumed dead to sea. So Danny agreed to take the blame for his aunt, because his father was filling his head. He told Danny that he had to take the blame for their family, and even Joe. Danny never understood that last part, but he knows that he won't go down again for his father's crimes. So Tess keeps calling Vikram, trying to get in touch. She told him he should return home, and he's ignoring her. He prefers to keep hiding. Karen, on the other hand, wants to make sure he gets found. She went to one of their old friends and asked for his help finding Vikram. They find him, but Marilyn somehow can. They can't find him, and Marilyn somehow can. So Joe finally, after the whole episode, finally chooses to actually help her friends, and to do that, she went to Marilyn proposing a deal. The deal was that she told Marilyn that Danny is willing to turn himself in, and he'll only do that if he gets to see his father first. So Marilyn tries to deny any connection, but when push comes to shove, it was Vikram that arrived to meet Danny instead of the police. So Danny wanted to get his father to back off. Joe felt he shouldn't have to do it alone. She arrived prior to Vikram. Danny warned her to go, and she wouldn't. And she ends up seeing Vikram. Now, this Vikram is not the man she used to know. This Vikram is scary and evidently without remorse towards his only child. He told Danny that no one could know he was alive. He claimed people were after him. Danny didn't believe him, and that got his father angry. Here is where the episode got amazing. I mean, it was already amazing, but this just got things this was huge right here. Because what pushes Vikram over the edge was actually Joe. She was making a call during the guy's argument, and when Vikram saw what he was doing, he tried to attack. Danny was able to buy her time. He attacked her father, giving Joe the chance to run, although she didn't get that far. She was running through the woods, and which she abruptly had to stop because she had run all the way to the tip of a cliff. And by the way, this whole scene is in complete darkness, so it was even more terrifying because it was in complete darkness. I will admit, Twisted is probably the darkest show on ABC Family. It is, and I like that. I like that it's a really dark show. So Vikram knocked out Danny, found Jo there trapped, he demanded her phone, then tried to fight her off, but Danny was able to intervene before Vikram got the chance to attack her and hurt her. They began fighting, he fell, and Danny grabbed the first thing he could, which was actually a branch. He swung at his father, and he was only supposed to, he only was doing this to try to stop his father from attacking him. But instead, what ends up happening is his father falls right off the cliff. He loses his balance, he falls right off the cliff, and Danny did try to get his hand. He didn't want to kill his father. He just wanted to kind of just make him go unconscious. But because of this happening, now Vikram is dead, and Danny is officially a killer. It probably wouldn't have been so bad if there wasn't a second witness hiding in the shadows. Danny and Jo know what the story was, but will the witness say? And that is how this episode ends, and I gotta say, it was an amazing episode. I really was into this episode because a couple things I do want to say, though. A couple things. One of the things that I love was the backstory we got in this episode between, why Danny did all this, who really, because, this whole thing started because people thought he killed his aunt, which he didn't. It was his father, but he was framed by doing it, and I thought that was a very good storyline. We also now know that Danny is not a killer. He didn't do any of this. The question is, will the witness officer, believe them? I doubt they will, because everyone still thinks Danny is a giant killer. We're still going to have to try to see, what happens there. And I am interested in seeing what happens there. Also, what's going to happen with Lacey and this new guy? Do you think they might have had something in the past? It seems that might happen. I really am not sure. We'll have to see. Also, Rico, and were you very surprised on the change in Rico with Danny? I was very surprised by that. I was surprised that Rico usually hates Danny, and he didn't hate Danny at all this time. I found that a little surprising. But that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, this was my favorite episode of the season, and I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.